Yo, what's up guys, Schizomanic here. So, haven't really done a video on One Piece in a while, and the fight with Katakuri and Luffy just finished up in the manga. So, manga spoilers ahead, you should know that through the chapter. And I kind of just wanted to get my thoughts and opinions and discussion on it. Because it's a weird situation, but it is something I wanted to address because it's probably one of the... I would say Katakuri is probably the best single villain we've had in a while. Like, I would say... He's been at least one of my favorite New World villains. I'm not going to say... It's hard to say Grand Line villains, but I damn sure will say New World. There's no other New World villain getting his hands on that mantle right now. Katakuri is, bar none, people, my favorite anyway. And the reason... But it kind of... I want to go into the fight because there's been a lot of discussion about how the fight went and who won the fight and whether it was justified and all that fun shit. And it's a weird process for me because this fight... has been probably one of the longest drawn out fights we've seen in a while. It has a lot of what I would argue filler and bullshit in it, but it's also used for the sake of character development. And then you still have the outcome of the fight, which is probably one of the more somber endings to a fight in One Piece, at least with a Luffy versus somebody fight. And that's in the fact that it's kind of a technically. It's a Luffy win. I say technically, but it doesn't really feel like it in my opinion. The way the whole thing goes about is, I think it was the last two chapters specifically. It was this chapter in a way, but a lot of last chapter where it just seemed like shit just kind of got weird towards the end of it. Where Luffy was acting like pseudo deranged and shit, expressing all of his feelings all of a sudden. And it was kind of like, well, that seems a little contrived. I mean, why is he expressing all of his feelings all of a sudden? Now, obviously, you get it for the sake of the theming. It's because of Katakuri and his insecurities about his face. And about his insecurities about who he really is as an individual. And I get that's the general idea. That you're trying to have Luffy create this parallel between how he doesn't give a fuck about any of that shit. He might call you weird or whatever, but he accepts a person for who they are. How Luffy respects Katakuri in terms of strength, and Katakuri over the course of the fight grows to respect him out of strength and all that other shit. And it's cool, but there's a little weird parts where at certain points in that, I would say at least towards the end of it, it started feeling like Katakuri was the hero in this situation more than fucking Luffy was. Like, Katakuri was the one you should be rooting for. Because Luffy at certain points was just kind of getting, like I said, the weird deranged feeling coming off of him with the whole overly expressing everything. He hasn't done that since, I think the last time I remember him doing it was probably maybe Luffy versus Usopp, where he was screaming, "Ow, it hurts, it stinks," like where he was actively talking about what was going on in the fight, like how he was feeling during the fight, versus the other fights where he kind of just did what he needed to do. It felt like a weird callback to that, but also in a weird, disturbing way. Especially some of the panels of his face close up. He just looks fucking deranged. One of his teeth, he's lost another tooth and shit. It got weird. It was a weird ass situation. But what you really want to talk about is how this fight ended, which is that they had them both coming at him with their quote unquote strongest attacks, and then I think the clash happens, and then the next chapter. You don't get to see the actual clash itself, but you get to see the aftermath. And people's concern is essentially, at the end of it all, it boils down to Katakuri saying, I guess you can see the future, falling over, Luffy putting a hat on his face and walking away. It's pretty much claiming that Luffy was the victor. Although I find it very interesting the way Oda decided to portray this, because the way he decided to do it is one, we never saw the final clash hit. And when I went back and reread the chapter a few times, I noticed one thing. Luffy's punch looks like it definitely hit Katakuri, because you see Katakuri kind of jerk back a little bit, and he seems to be coughing out blood. And although Katakuri's fist looks like there's blood falling from the fist, if you notice, Katakuri's fist is over Luffy. It's not like considering the way we saw that move get used before, where Katakuri swung his arm, caught Luffy in the mochi, and then did pretty much a bang and destroyed the ground. It's a little weird that that when he threw it this time, all it seemed to do was go over Luffy's head, or maybe he just dropped it on Luffy. I would almost argue that I think Luffy won the clash, because a lot of people say, oh, he won because of that. I think he literally won because he's the one who actually got his hit off all the way. Luffy went up and struck this dude, knocked him back, and I don't think if he did, I don't think Katakuri got his whole hit off. I really don't, because the way it's drawn, considering we just saw the same attack earlier in the chapter, it's like, well, actually the previous chapter, considering what he did the first time, this seems like a weird, oh, I'm just going to throw my punch. Especially because we both know that both of those attacks are known to blow motherfuckers back. Luffy's hits are known to blow you the fuck back, and so is Katakuri's. Katakuri has always blown Luffy the fuck back. So why is it that this one all of a sudden it didn't? I don't think Katakuri got his hit off personally. I think that's what it was. I think Snake Man won purely because it was faster. Now a lot of people still have the issue with the fact that after all that shit, Luffy still won. And in a way, technically, he won, but it more feels like a draw to me. Because they both blacked out. They both, well, I actually would argue that Luffy won the war, but not the battle. In the sense that when that shit was all said and done, the ground cracked, and Luffy fell over, and that nigga was out. He was out. Whereas, I would argue, Katakuri had kind of a victor's win, where he just kind of dropped to his knee and passed out. He was just happy the shit was over to me. That's the perception I got from just looking at the panels. That was the one thing I thought was weird between these last two chapters, is it felt like Luffy himself seemed more like a villain in this situation than Katakuri. And granted, they're both pirates, but for some reason, it got to like I said before, it made it feel like you were supposed to be rooting for Katakuri at some point. And a lot of people believe that Katakuri should have won. I don't think anyone would have been mad if Katakuri won. I'll put it that way. And because of the nature of this arc, and knowing that we're not done here, we're not done, mind you, it's one of those things where it's like, well, you could have easily had Luffy lose here, since they got to come back and deal with Big Mom at some point. I don't think anyone would have been mad if you had Luffy completely lose here. But you still have to do it in a way that would allow Luffy be able to get the fuck out. And considering Katakuri's inherent fear at the beginning of this damn fight, or early into the fight, talking about, if I let this motherfucker go, this is going to become a true problem, right? I feel like there was some give and take here. So, they both pass out for 10 minutes, and then Luffy gets up first, which I also found a little interesting. Luffy gets up first because and the reason why I know he gets up first is because when he springs out of the cave-in, the underground cave-in, he gets up, and you can still see Katakuri's body on the ground. So Katakuri is still out for a few seconds, and I think Katakuri was like, "Oh shit, there he is," and gets the fuck back up, and he's like, "So you're to come back and defeat Big Mom." And he becomes this weird pull, and maybe that's because Katakuri's story isn't truly over. We know it's not truly over anyway, and I think there's more to this. Because we know he was made fun of because of his teeth, but the way he asks Luffy the question, you still want to come and defeat Big Mom, right? And he's like, yeah, I'm going to come back and I'm going to kick her ass. That's because I want to be the king of the pirates. And his response is, I guess you can really see into the future, and passes the fuck out. And it's one of those... I guess you can really see the future. And I guess, and the big thing is, what does that line mean when he says it? That he's going to, I guess you can really see the future. And the way I took it was that he saw that he would beat Dogtooth. He saw that he would lose. Because that line doesn't make sense any other way. It doesn't. Like, in the whole context of the fight, all of a sudden, at the end of the fight, it's like, I guess you can see the future now. I think the way he equates it is that if you can beat me, you're not going to struggle that much towards anybody else in one-on-one fights. And that's why I say I think that was more referring to him just beating him. And even then, I still wouldn't really call it a win, because most of Luffy's wins is it's an inherent win. It's like the final One Piece finisher move. Luffy finisher followed usually by some type of yell or victory scream. Here was like a really somber victory. I'm more inclined to call this a draw, even though I don't think Oda's going to call it a draw. I almost feel like Oda was trying to. I would say when Luffy passed out right there at 10 minutes, I mean, right before the 10-minute break, that was Luffy's loss. At the same time, having Katakuri fall over in front of Luffy, you could argue, was Katakuri's loss. But because Katakuri didn't get back up, and I'd be curious if he is going to get back up at any point. Just because he lost right here doesn't mean we're done. It just means that I think the big thing to take away from this is that Luffy's victory against Katakuri here is not like any of his other victories. Any of his other victories, I can openly say, Luffy could get into most any of those other characters he fought and beaten already. He's ass at most of the time, 90% of the time. Katakuri, it's literally one of those things where it would still that if you run across Katakuri on a bad day, you're fucked. Hell, if you run across Katakuri on a good day and that motherfucker's having a great day, you're fucked. I don't think this is the same tier of like winning and losing, I guess. It's hard to explain. And I knew this was probably going to happen. If they let Luffy win, I knew people were going to be mad. I'd be curious if there's more to this. That's the big thing I want to just take away from. I want people to take away from this. I think there's more to this than just, oh, he's out and we're done with Katakuri now. There might be more to this, especially because we still got stuff with the Vin smokes. There's the whole One Last Wish, which the title of the chapter, which has nothing to do with Luffy and Katakuri, has everything to do with fucking. There's still things to be done here. So I'd be curious if that's Katakuri's final. I feel like there's more to the Katakuri story, I guess is what I'm saying. Because either that, because like I said, that whole I guess you can see the future, you really can see the future, is either implying about him being beaten by Luffy, or there's something more there. Because the problem with that statement is that it would almost imply like he would want Big Mom to lose. And see, I think that was the biggest thing about Katakuri we still don't know, is his motivations for protecting his mom in this. I mean, obviously it's a family thing, but I'd be curious, does he actually agree with his mother's methods and stuff? That's kind of the one thing I kind of wish it would have go into a little bit more. Because Katakuri definitely seems to have some issues, and the fact that he's insecure about his face around his own family members kind of leads me to believe there's more issues there with Katakuri and his family than one may think. So I'd be highly surprised if that was it for Katakuri. But do I agree that you probably could have had Luffy lose and it still work? I guess, especially now that we know Peckham's is around and they plan to use him. Although, to be fair, I don't know how you could have justifiably done this. It was like, oh, I'll let you go. I feel like that would still be a problem if Katakuri let Luffy go. It would make sense. Like, if that's to me, I think they just, and I think a lot of people's big issue is just the fact that Luffy won overall, not the fact that Luffy's gonna get out of here. I think it's that Luffy won, because Katakuri letting Luffy go to me would be even dumber. The whole arc has been about. The whole major thing about Big Mom Pirates versus any other enemy they face so far is that the Big Mom Pirates are the only ones who have not underestimated the Straw Hats. They've actually gave them the common decency and respect of treating them like... I think Katakuri is the only character who's underestimated Luffy, which he got over by the halfway through the damn chapter. So I couldn't imagine it still working in a way where it's like, oh, well, even though Katakuri won, I'm going to still let you go. That doesn't make any fucking sense. He just sat there and made him a threat. I actually prefer... I put it this way. I'd rather him win. I'd rather Luffy win than Katakuri let him go, personally. Because they've been taking the Straw Hat seriously the majority of this arc, it wouldn't make sense for Katakuri to win and then Luffy still escape. I don't... No. So I guess of Oda's choices between, and if it was a draw, I guess maybe people would have been cool with that too, but I think people would still have been mad. And in a way, I kind of look at it as an inadvertent draw. I actually expect them to have a round 2 rematch, and it'd be a real rematch. Although I don't think people would be as happy about seeing it now. That's probably the reason why I say it probably overall it would have been better for Luffy to lose. Because now, if they do have a rematch, it may... I think people's expectations has been ruined now. That's kind of the problem. Luffy, the expectations going into any future fights with Katakuri and Luffy has been ruined now because you let him win under the condition he probably shouldn't have won at. And overall, it probably would have been better, but realistically, story-wise, how do you make it where Luffy could still get out and get his shit done and not get killed? I feel like, and in a way, I almost argue that Oda just said, we're going to lose in some aspects, so I'd rather take the loss here where Luffy just wins and people get angry at that than to go in the other direction. So I think that's what he did. I wouldn't say he wrote himself into a corner. He just put himself in between two hard places where he couldn't literally get out without pissing people off. Because if Katakuri wins, then people would be like, well, Katakuri's incompetent for letting characters like Peckham's and them get through and save Luffy. It just becomes a whole nother fucking thing. I don't know. It's one of those weird things, and it's probably one of the reasons why it's hard to judge these things at the time. Because in retrospect, some of these things can be a lot better. But then again, this is the same author that people sat there and said he was God tier for a character like Lucci, who literally is like one of the most uninteresting characters in the fucking series. The motherfucker is literally only popular because he's strong. Or people don't count the bullshit that can come between moves like Gear 2nd and Gear 3rd, which literally come out of nowhere. There is no setup for training for that. He might talk about, I've been working on a way of making myself stronger. When the fuck did he have time to test it? When did he have time to use any of these abilities? We don't fucking know. We haven't even seen him try to use any of these abilities before this. See the problem? One Piece this is probably better power scaling than he's been had. Because this shit has been so. I have to look at this as an improvement than what he used to write. Because that Lucci shit, I hate the fact that Lucci is popular purely because of him being a half-ass character. Lucci serves no purpose to me whatsoever. That's why I'm never excited when I see the piece of shit. Because I know half the reason why we're seeing him is because of fan outcry, not because he's a good fucking character. Lucci's a piss-ass poor character. Waste of fucking time and space. You know what? Not gonna do it. Not even gonna get into it. But that's just kind of my thoughts on the Katakuri Luffy situation. It's weird. Overall, I think this is probably just the best outcome you could have taken with him, is to have him win. Having him lose, I'd rather Katakuri lose on a bad day, like this day, than him win and then being called stupid for losing Luffy to some dumb ass way. In a sense that, like, oh, you beat Luffy and Luffy still gets away. Because all the major themes of this fight are still stuck there. You know, the whole Luffy ain't shit. Luffy has a lot more to go in terms of getting stronger, mastering his haki, observation, King Conqueror, all that other shit. And the fact is that there's more to Katakuri. There's more of a story for Katakuri to tell at this point. We know he has aspirations because he has King Conqueror's haki. That's why I said I know people are mad with Katakuri, the outcome of this fight, but I don't think this will hurt Katakuri in the long run. People are just going to start making fairy tale comparisons about, oh, look, I guess Luffy can't lose now. I wouldn't say that. But, you know, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. This has been the Insane Game Freak. Schizomanic. It's been your boy. I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.